Music is about exploring, creating, and doing what you love and what feels honest and true to you. That shouldn't be judged on how you do it, however you want to do it, whether it's with a jazz hollow body playing classic jazz stuff or a nylon Spanish-style classical guitar, reading music and not ever creating your own, or something as wild as a huge pedal board, that's okay. No one should judge you on that. Make what you want. I'll call this the Pearl Lion Light Rig. My artist project, Pearl Lion. There's a light and a dark EP that's coming out. The light is more of the luscious, buttery, ambient, melodic, clean kind of tone sound. And these are a couple of weapons that you can use to achieve that. The idea is I want the sounds to inspire the music, or at least my playing when I'm writing. Sometimes a clean tone on an amp is a beautiful thing, but for more melodic and writing kind of music, sometimes it's a bit stale. So that's why I like things to have some more like reverb or delays or maybe some more weirder sounds. If I'm doing swell type stuff, it's good to have a compressor and a volume pedal to do stuff like that. You can do it without it. I've done it without it, but it's also good to have. So it's just some weapons to help shape an atmosphere, because sometimes if you have a lot of atmospheric things going on, you might not tend to play as much because the space is being filled. Now that doesn't always lead to great songwriting, but it's just a tool, just like anything else. Playing clean amp, you know, will be one thing. Playing a vibey sound will be something else, and it just leads you to a different sonic world. The volume pedal is for swells, which is actually why I have the compressor, because sometimes you can get good volume swells without a compressor pedal, but I find that when you're trying to be more subtle, to have the sustain from the compression really helps. So usually I would want some sort of delay or reverb. Let's do both, so why not? I'm going to be using the Cathedral Reverb by EHX Electro-Harmonix, as well as the Memory Man. The Cathedral Reverb is set to a Grail spring, so I have it as a really wide, I'll just show you. It's a long decay. And it's kind of dark, so it's kind of not in the way of the tone of the guitar. Then the delay, this is where I have that set. That's a lot of repeats, maybe a little too much. But anyway, that's where those are set. So we have those. So this is without the compressor. So if you're playing lighter, that's where the compressor really shines. So I'll play a light swell. Versus compressor on. It will also pick up any noise. This is building the ground floor. So I'm playing really light, so you're getting a lot of noise. But what you can tell is the notes are fuller and more of the swells coming through. So now, if you play... Okay, so now if we just try... When I'm using this pedal, it's not that I'm putting myself in an actual space visually, but I feel like I'm in a different, I feel the space around me more than I can see it. So I just feel like it's in something that's taking up so much literal space. Oh. So Like if I was to noodle around without it, right? And so we have this. Pretty standard guitar thing, right? But when you add some of this stuff to it, it creates this universe. Just gives you all this extra world of goodness. I didn't really know how to use a compression pedal, to be honest, for a really long time until I started using it with the swell kind of thing. I eventually tried the Keeley two-knob compressor, so you couldn't really mess that up. It's like sustain and attack maybe, and I just played with those settings. The more sustain that you have, the more your notes will continue to ring out. And for swelling and more ambient type stuff, that was kind of what I've wanted. I know that a lot of people use compressors for funk playing because you have more equal dynamic. That is definitely useful. That is something that I don't do. It's just a stylistic choice. I like to have the different variety of percussiveness, but a lot of people do use it for that. I'd say those are probably the two biggest styles. But then there's also just the sound of a compressor pedal. You know, you put like a compressor pedal in front of a Vox, it's like that jangly Beatles thing. It's just that kind of sound. Depending on your rig, I would like to have more of like a lighter reverb and then maybe something that's more ambient or washy. But what's cool about the Afterneath is that you get a lot of control. Well, you can change like the sound of the tail. It's a different. It's actually, I kind of have them, right now I just have it set at spring, but the Afterneath is kind of in this similar mode. So maybe, you know, I would change the Cathedral or something to something different and then have the Afterneath do its own thing. But we can kind of go through what this does, which is really, really cool. So if you do a single note, you can really hear, it's almost like super fast delay with reverb. You could be here all day. The tail is really long, it's really great. I would use the Fazolo for a type of fuzz that's long and sustained, more mid-range, almost kind of like an electric cello or violin, something like that. Maybe swelly, more one-note type of lines, or it's just some lead playing. The reason you gotta have an H9, it has so many things. I think for someone sitting at home, jamming in their bedroom, to people on stage with huge rigs and MIDI preset loading and all these things, it's great for everybody. You can do everything. I mean, they have pitch things and weird like crystal like reverb delay things, delays, it's just modulation, it's endless. It's really fun to just scroll through, find something and just rock it out. So one of my favorites on this is the crystals setting. This is just a straight up preset. We haven't adjusted anything. I would probably do that in a studio setting and tweak it to exactly fit what I need, but right out of the box, it's pretty sick. So maybe you add some vibe, you get this. Some people definitely seem to think that there's a whole world of guitar players out there who use tons of pedals and make sounds, and basically that's a crutch and that's being lazy and you're not working on your craft or being a good guitar player just because you use pedals. And I think that's a really, really narrow-minded view. I've spent my entire life working on guitar and learning how to play and going to college for guitar and learn theory and all the way up to like rock and blues and funk and jazz and soul and R&B and I mean I've studied so much music. I've studied, you know, I've worked on my phrasing my entire life, how to make notes sound a certain way, how to sound aggressive, how to sound light, how to be able to control your volume with your right hand. Like I've worked on so many things. There's still a million things left to work on, but you know, and then this whole pedal thing exploded over the last 15 years. And for me personally, I'm so happy that it did, because just playing guitar through an amp is one of the most beautiful things in the world, but sometimes it's just not enough. Like I want to be able to make sounds that haven't come from a standard guitar, or I want to transform the guitar to not make it sound like a guitar, to make it sound more synth-like, more pad-like. I want to make pitch things go up and down, use like weird whammy pedals, there's a million tools that I can use, and that doesn't make me a lazy player. That makes me someone who is sonically exploring the terrain of guitar. If Jimi Hendrix was around today, I mean, he was doing that back then with the 4 pedals he had, and look what he did. Imagine if he had all of these pedals. He'd have a pedal board the size of like a room. He'd have 5 roadies just dealing with his pedal boards live. He'd have like the whole stage would be a pedal board. And like that, I think that's totally cool. If you want to make a song that's spacey and weird and beautiful and melodic and vibey, and you need H9 crystals and a cathedral reverb and a weird fuzz pedal and a volume to do that, what is wrong with that? My first Duesenberg that I ever played was at this NAMM, January 2018. It was the new Julia. And I only played it for a little bit, and it had a really great sound. Sonically, I was really impressed. But I never played the classic, like Duesenberg, you know, Les Paul, semi-hollow with the trem. I didn't get to check that out. So today is the first time I'm getting to play the Mike Campbell, and I really don't want to let go of it. It just sounds open, jangly. It just opens up. The trem feels like heaven. It's such a dream to play. It's actually incredibly easy to play. Like I can get to, you know, this fret with like nothing. I don't have to touch I don't have to struggle at all. And I typically like to struggle. I like big action, big frets, big strings. But this is just incredibly beautifully made, and it sounds like a luscious dream. So yes, I specifically asked for these types of guitars because I have recorded with a lot of these guitars for some of the light. The two most used guitars for Pearl Lion Light are my two Strats with maple necks. So I wanted to get a maple neck Strat. I like this one. It's got the big, pretty big frets, nice thick neck, nice beefy neck. I find that maple neck it's a little sweeter, a little softer, but still nice and bright. And a lot of the Pearl Lion Light stuff, the clean guitars need to cut through the tracks. So this is a really great example of a maple neck Strat. And the Jazzmaster, I typically like to use, it's great. I use it for a lot of kind of trem stuff. More clean chords, open, maybe some light finger picking. It has a nice clarity because of the type of pickups and the sound of Jazzmaster. It's got this almost, not telly twang, but almost like a surfer twang, so you really get the fingernail kind of grease. You can hear that if you finger pick. And then of course you get your pretty kind of vibrato type of things if you need to do that as well, which is always good to have as an option. I like Gretsch semi-hollows and hollow bodies with Bigsby's because you can get a really warm but open sound. They have a little bit of that acoustic property when you play them because of the hollow. The pickups are really sparkly. Bigsby on a Gretsch is just kind of a classic sound, and it's just a beautiful thing to play. I chose the Super Comet amp for the Pearl Lion Light Rig because it's really portable, so you can bring it around. It's really nice. The clean sound is phenomenal, and if you crank it to 10, 9, depending on the wattage, you can get a really nice overdrive, like a really gritty, but like tubey overdrive that sounds so good, and it takes pedals incredibly well. So with all these types of things, everything's gonna sound beautiful through that. And also, what's cool is it has a really great tremolo and a reverb. So when you don't have some of this stuff and you're just sitting at home and I'm writing and working on ideas or trying to write new Pearl Lion songs that are more in that category, I can turn on this amp and I don't need to use any other pedals. I mean, I might want to, but I don't have to.